It's April, which means it's time for the spring equinox of Magical Readathon. Magical Readathon is a readathon created by Book Roast, where we study at the magical school of Orilium, and we have to take our exams twice a year, once in April, once in September. September is always a little bit harder because it's the end of the year than April is. And it's really my favorite readathon of all time. It's the first one I ever participated in, even before it got the rebranding that it now has. It's the one that got me into BookTube. Like, it's a whole thing. I love this readathon. It's one of my reading highlights of the year. And I've been participating since the start of Orilium, which means that last year, because I've successfully taken my exams every year, I've graduated as a story weaver last year. And this year, she has created some higher callings, like you can think of it as like a postgraduate for people who have already achieved their calling or like their first career, which for me was story weaver. And I am going to do a higher calling this year, and I'm going to do the Worldbuilder. I will put it up here. It's like, I think, one of the more easier higher callings, but it's the one where the prompt spoke to me the most. It fits me the best. I also get like a little bit of a discount on the amount of pages I have to read because I have one of the careers that is listed as story weaver. So normally you would have to achieve 2,000 pages for this higher calling. But because I'm a story weaver, I only have to do 1,800 pages in this semester. If I don't read enough pages, I can work on it again next year. So you don't have to read all of them in 1 month, which is fine. I think this will be doable in 1 month, but 1,800 pages, sometimes I achieve it and sometimes I read a little bit less. So we'll see, maybe I will do it in 1 year, maybe higher calling will take me 2 years to finish. But the prompts that I have to pick from. So this is a little bit different than with a career, because with a career you have to take classes and for every class you have to read a book. Here you just have like a couple of prompts and you can read one prompt as many times as you want. So, and then you count the pages of that book as long as it fits one of the prompts. The prompts for Worldbuilder are a fantasy book, my favorite genre, so easy, but it has to be non-urban. A book with a map. A lot of fantasy books have a map, so also pretty easy. Then graphic novel, comic, or manga. I currently don't have any of them on my TBR, which is a little bit sad because that would be easier than the big fantasy books. I do want to read the second volume of Lenormand, but I don't own it yet. So maybe if I find it somewhere in April, I will immediately read it, but I will probably focus on fantasy and book with a map. We also have 2 classes that we can take, count the prompts for. So we have Art of Illusion, which is read a book with an unusual formatting. Don't really know if I have any on the TBR. The book that comes to mind is Daisy Jones and the Six, which is like an interview format, but I've already read that one, so not sure. And then the other one is Elemental Studies, read a book with a temperature word in the title, like cold or hot or something like that. Also, I'm not sure if I have any of them on my TBR. We will find out. But the first book I will be reading counts for fantasy and book with a map. And I have to read it for a book club that's at the end of this month. And that is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I've been wanting to read this book for so long. I wanted to read it in March, didn't get to it. So it's going to be my first book of April. I haven't read anything yet by M.L. Wang. I know they've written like the Sword of Kaigen. They've been independently published. This one was independently published but has been picked up. It's even going to get a Dutch translation soon, so whoa. But yeah, this is a Waterstones exclusive that I have. Let's see, I think it's pretty underneath the dust jacket. Oh no, it's normal, so it's not that exclusive, I guess. This is a school setting book, a dark academia, which I love, always love magical schools. I think it's appropriate to read a magical school for Orilium, where we are studying at a magical school. And it's about, I don't know what the character's name is, Skiona? Like, it's a fantasy name, I don't know how to pronounce it. Wants to study magic, but like in this world, only men get to study magic at the university. She gets in, passes the qualifying exam, but then they, like, instead of giving her like a real qualified assistant, they give her a janitor as her assistant. So she like discovers a lot of things about the society, about like the privileged who are in power and the past, things like that. I don't know a lot about this book, but it does sound right up my alley. It's a fantasy standalone, and I love me a fantasy standalone. Like the little blurb here says, the first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever in the standalone dark fantasy from the author of the Sword of Kaigen. Yeah, that sounds great. And like here is the map, so it definitely counts for my Worldbuilder higher calling. So let's get reading. So I've read up until page 96 last night in Blood over Brighthaven, and I thought I'd come here and tell you my initial thoughts. This is really good so far, and I'm very happy about that because I had high expectations of it, because I've seen it on so many favorites lists last year. I heard nothing but good things about it, and it's living up to the hype so far. It's kind of reminding me of R.F. Kuang's writing. He's one of my favorite authors, so that's good. And specifically, it's reminding me of both the Poppy War and Babel. It's not so much the writing style, but it's more like the themes and the way the world is built. Like, some elements are reminding me of it. The first chapter very much reminded me of the brutality of the Poppy War. Now that we're more in the academic setting, and the way the magic is described and the kind of magic it is, it's kind of reminding me of Babel. Not that it's like language related, but I don't know, just like more like the academic setting and that kind of stuff. The first chapter it's more like a prologue, I would say, but I think it's just like chapter 1 in the book. We follow Thomil. His tribe is like almost extinct. There are 40 people left, and they have to escape to the city of Tyrann, which I think is funny because the city is almost called Tyranny, and I think that's fitting. I think the author chose that name for a reason. And because that city is like covered in a shield that protects the people in it from the blight, which is like very scary plague that's like a white light, and when that light hits you, you just like unravel. So your skin comes off and you're turned into this pile of bones and ash and hair in seconds. So it's really scary. That's the first chapter we read, is just like Thomil trying to escape, and he is the only survivor together with his niece from this tribe. He's the only one who makes it to the city of these 40 people. We skip to the POV of Siona, and Siona is a mage who wants to become a high mage, but I thought that magic would be forbidden to women in this world, but it's not. It's just that women can't become high mages, so the highest rank of mages. And she's going to try out for this exam. Only once a decade they let one woman try out, and no one has passed this exam so far. Siona, she passes the exam and becomes a high mage. And now I've read so far her first day as a high mage, and like her colleagues are terrible to her. There's a lot of misogyny in the book. And as a kind of joke, assign her the janitor as her mage's assistant, instead of like a real research mage who is qualified and has the education to be an assistant. Janitor is Thomil from the first chapter. A lot of racism because people look down at the immigrants in the city, like they're called the Quen, but Thomil's tribe had a different name, so I think they're just like everyone who's not from the city is Quen. I think it's something like that. Also interesting that Siona does have her prejudices towards the Quen and Thomil, but we see her already like starting to see that like Thomil is not like how they depict people from the Quen. Very interested in the magic because on the cover you have this, I thought it was a typewriter. It looks like a typewriter, but it's a spellograph, and the magic is like you write spells on this spellograph, and you have like sourcing spells and mapping the spells and action spells. It's pretty complicated, and I don't understand everything yet, but they kind of take energy from the other realms, so they make spells to open up the other realm, and then they have to source or target the energy they want from the other realm. And magic can exist because of the power they take from this other realm. So that's interesting. And like the other realm has been described as like is like a bit like white. So I think it will be connected to this blight. Like maybe they are taking too much power from the other realm and it's causing this blight outside of the city. I also think that like Jonah did have like a mentor mage who prepared her for this exam, and he wanted her to succeed, and he's nice to her, but I think he has like his own political reasons for wanting a woman in the high magistry, because these high mages, they have a lot of political power. They're not the government, but they have a lot of power, like who gets elected and stuff like that, and there's like an election going on. So I don't know, I think that he will have his reasons for wanting Siona there, and I don't trust him. Curious what will happen next, and I will talk to you once I've read a little bit more. I accidentally read quite a lot in Blood over Brighthaven yesterday. So it's like Easter weekend, it's Monday, and I have the day of work. Tomorrow I have to work again. And I'm like around 60% into it now. And now that I'm filming, I'm noticing that my outfit matches the book. Which I didn't plan, but I think this is, oh my god, yes. Love it. Okay, so this book is amazing. Actually, I'm really into it, like really into it. Not sure yet if it's going to be like a full 5-star, because that's always difficult to predict, because the ending really makes or breaks a 5-star read for me. But like I'm definitely thinking like 4.5, maybe 5 stars depending on the ending. Not very twisty or anything like that, because the reveals that we've had so far I actually saw coming, but like a couple of chapters before they were revealed. And I still really love where this story is going. Maybe that's weird to say because I did predict so far what's going on, but the way it's crafted is still so brilliant. And this book has so much to say about our world and our society. And like I've had people before tell me, when I tell them like I read mostly fantasy or I write fantasy stories, that like, oh, but fantasy, that's just like a fun adventure. And like, no, fantasy can say so much about our world and can criticize so much through metaphor, and magic can be used as like a metaphor for so many things. You can explore so many themes through magic and creating other worlds. And if someone would give me that sort of comment again, I will tell them, just read this book. Read this book, because it has so much to say about so many relevant things, about power, about capitalism, about discrimination, misogyny, racism, all of those things. And What I really appreciate is that Siona, our main character, she's a woman, so she knows what it's like to be discriminated, but she still has her own prejudices and privileges compared to like the Quen, who are immigrants in the city. And you see her having these prejudices and at one point in the book like making really mean comments to Thomil. But you also see her change her mind and come to terms with prejudices she has, and that like everything she knows about the city she grew up in, the magic she grew up with and she has studied, learns what's wrong with it. And it's devastating. It's devastating to her that this thing that she's loved so much, she's worked so hard to become a high mage as a woman, to then discover how corrupt the entire system is so devastating and so hard to read at times. And I love both characters. I love Thomil, I love Siona, and I also really love that we've got this like conversation that when you discover that you've been like a part of something that's actually very harmful to other people, but without your knowledge. Of course, Siona feels like a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. At one point, she gets really deep into depression. Then she realizes the question is not how can I stop feeling like this, feeling so bad because of what I've discovered and what I now know about magic and our society and how it's been built and the history. But the question is not how can I stop feeling like this, because you can't. It's a very normal and real reaction to feel so much shame and to feel so much guilt. The question is what can I do with this emotion, and how can I like take this energy of these emotions and put it into action and actually make something, turn it into something good. I'm very curious to see what Siona is planning next. I'm hoping to see her try to destroy the system from the inside out, because that would be so satisfying to read. But oh my god, like Archmage Brigham in this story, I knew from the start that we couldn't trust him, because to Siona he's like the only man who treats her like right as a mage, who's been there for her, he's nice to her, she really looks up to him. And then to discover what he's actually like is not only devastating to Siona, but so realistic. I feel like the power structures in this book are so realistic. And it's about magic, okay, but it's also real in our world. I think this is an amazing book, and I think a lot of people should read it. I still stand by my statement that it's giving me Arv Kwong vibes, very much Babel vibes. But yeah, I'm not sure if I will update you again before I finish this. We'll see what happens. We'll see if it will end up being 5-star, because if it is, it will be my first full 5-star of the year. I'm very like harsh with my 5 stars. I give 4.5, not pretty easily, but I do give a lot of books that I read 4 and 4.5, but like full 5 stars, every year I only have like a handful of them. And I think this might be the first one of the year. And if it's not, I think it will be like a 4.5 and still like a favorite, but not like full 5 stars, if that makes sense. Yeah. Don't know what else to say. Just read it. read my first 5-star of the year. It was full 5 stars and I'm so happy about it. The ending was bittersweet but hopeful, and that kind of ending also reminds me of Babel, so I would still say that that comparison holds up. And I would really say if you enjoyed Babel by R.F. Kuang, you really have to read Blood over Brighthaven, because I think you will love it as well. Babel was also a 5-star read for me, by the way. I don't know if I have a lot to say about it that I haven't already told you in the updates. I just thought the plot was really well crafted, and it's not the most twisty story, but everything that happens is logical, and the way it's written and crafted is just really well done. So yeah, I think this is a book that I will recommend often from now on. It's one of my new favorite Dark Academia books, one of my new favorite fantasy standalones, which are two of my favorite things, so not that surprising maybe. But yeah, I'm really, really happy that it lived up to the hype, and that I loved it as much as I hoped I would, and that I have a new favorite and a new 5-star read. So this was like 428 pages for my Worldbuilder career. And the next book I'm going to read is actually the book club pick from the Archivists, which is my guild in Orilium. And that's Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. This is actually the first time I'm able to participate in the book club. I think one time a book was picked that I did own and I had on my physical TBR, but then it didn't fit like any of the prompts I had to fulfill and I didn't get to it. But this time, the book club pick is not only on my TBR. I was gifted this for my birthday in March, so it's not that long on my TBR. I only have it for like a month now. Also fits for my Worldbuilder career because it's a non-urban fantasy. I've read one T. Kingfisher before, A House with Good Bones. That one is a horror book. I really enjoyed that one, 4 stars. So I'm really intrigued to try more from her and to try one of her fantasy works. I think this is like the most different I can get from A House with Good Bones, because I feel like a lot of our other fantasy books still have like some darker or horror elements in them. But this one is more like cozy and I think a little bit more romantic. And I have to say that I wasn't really interested in this series before they made these cover changes, because I absolutely love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. So it's a little bit of a, like, not like a cover bow, I think, because I got it for my birthday, but like it was on my wish list because of the cover and because I just want to read more T. Kingfisher. So excited about this one, and we'll see what I think of it. The first 140 pages of Paladin's Grace, so I've read a decent amount of the book. And this is an interesting mix of genres. It's fantasy, and it's also romance, and it's also cozy mystery. And that last one is the thing that intrigues me the most so far. So we follow 2 characters. We have Stephen, who is a paladin whose god died a few years ago. And now he kind of has a problem that these paladins, the ones who survived, kind of go into these berserker fits, and that can be very dangerous. So he isn't really a paladin anymore. He knits socks to pass time, and he sometimes is a bodyguard for this other order, for another god. And then we have Grace, who is a perfumer in the city, and Stephen and Grace meet for the first time, and Stephen is coming back home from a bodyguard job and it's like a little bit of a rougher side of the city, and suddenly a woman is screaming and crying for help, and it's Grace who is being followed by some ruffians. And he rescues her, and then they meet once again at this event for a crown prince from a different city who is visiting. They are witnesses of a failed assassination attempt. And that's where the murder mystery comes into it. Like I said, the murder mystery is the thing that's intriguing me the most, and the romance isn't really doing it for me so far. I feel like it's a little bit insta-lovey, and I'm not a big fan of that. I do like both Stephen and Grace, it's just I don't really feel their chemistry. And I think that's like my main complaint about the book so far. I do also have to say that I don't like the writing style as much as I like D. Kingfisher's writing in A House with Good Bones. I think this one is older, so maybe that's why. Maybe this was a little bit more early in her career, and maybe she was still finding her style. Obviously, it's also like a very different genre, so maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe I like her horror writing more. So yeah, not really convinced yet, but also not hating it because the murder mystery is intriguing me, and I do want to keep reading to find out what's going on there and who's behind this failed assassination. That's, I think, my update so far, and we'll see if I will update you again so once I've read a little bit more, or if I will just talk to you once I finish this. Kind of depends if I have anything more to say when I get further into the story. I went book shopping with my husband yesterday. I put in some clips from our time in the city. We just went to have like a little bit to eat, and then went to Purple Petals, which is an independent bookstore in Antwerp that focuses on English romance and fantasy books, and also has a lot of romantasy. My husband wanted to go because he had just finished Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, and he immediately wanted the next book in the series, and we know that this store has every single book of Robin Hobb, so we went to pick up Ship of Destiny, and then I obviously also bought some books. So I picked up the small paperback of Onyx Storm because I read Fourth Wing when the small paperback just came out, so these are the ones that I'm reading the series in. So I've been waiting a long time for my copy of Onyx Storm, so now I can finally read it and be caught up with the series. And then I bought some books for Rare Berlin, romance authors and readers event that is happening in May. And I have like a list of books I want to read for that. And I picked up a few more in the store. So we have Glow of the Everflame, which is the second book in the Kindred's Curse saga. I read Spark of the Everflame in January in preparation for Rare, and I want to continue with this series. And like, I don't think I will read this one before the event takes place, but then I can take it with me and get it signed by Pencol. I also already had Heat of the Everflame. I got that one for my birthday, so I just needed the second book. Then I bought We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark, also one of the authors that is still on my rare reading list. So I hope I will be able to read this one before the event takes place, and otherwise I will take it with me, get it signed, and read it afterwards. But this is a romantasy with like a competition and vampires and a love triangle. That's really all I know about it. And then the last book I got was The Cage of Wildbird, which is actually a book I am currently listening to in audio, and I'm over halfway through and I'm really enjoying it. So I thought I'm going to pick up this special edition so that I have a physical copy to get signed at Rare. Now I can immersion read the rest of the book. And this is like an adult dystopian romance. Kind of bothers me that it's being sold as a romantasy, so it was in the romantasy section in the store, and I know that it also was like a fairy-loot romantasy, but like there's no fantasy elements. This is just set in our world in the future. It's a dystopian, but it's not a fantasy at all, and it kind of bothers me. But great story so far, really enjoying this. So happy to have a physical copy. And I'll also give a short update on Paladin's Grace. So, and this one I'm not reading, obviously, for Worldbuilder Career. I started the audiobook before April started, and like I said, it doesn't have any fantasy elements. I don't think it has a map. Now that I have the physical copy, I can check, but I don't think it has one. No. So it doesn't really fit. So this is not for my Orilium readings, which is why it hasn't been in this reading vlog. Paladin's Grace. I'm now up to page 287. So I have less than 100 pages left. And I thought I'd do a quick update because one of the last chapters really surprised me. I was kind of getting a little bit bored by the story, but we got more information about the killer and the murder mystery that is happening, and that I really like. I really like what's going on there, and that's really what is pulling me into the story and keeping me reading. Still don't really feel the chemistry in the romance, even though, like I said before, I really like Stephen and Grace as characters. Just don't really like their romance as much. So I don't think this will be a very high rating, but maybe, I don't know, I think it will be like a 3-star or 3.5 star, depending on how everything's wrapped up and then how the mystery goes on, because that part is really working for me. I will talk to you again once I have finished this one. Finished Paladin's Grace. I'm sorry, I'm in my pajamas because I'm going to bed. I gave this one 3.5 stars, but it's like 3.5 leading towards 3 stars more than towards 4 stars, even though I still rated it 4 stars on Goodreads because I rate all my 3.5 stars 4 stars on Goodreads. It only seems fair to rate books higher than low instead of lower than what you actually think of them. Still, I wish Goodreads would just allow you to give half stars. Mostly enjoyed the mystery plot, like I said in the last update, and that didn't change. There were a few chapters where I was really intrigued and reading very quickly, but then other chapters that focused more on the romance, I got a little bit bored because I don't know, I just didn't really feel the chemistry between them. I liked them as characters, but just their romance couldn't care less. And I was a little bit disappointed to find out that the mystery plot doesn't get resolved in this book. So it will continue in the next one. I think I was expecting these to be more like interconnected standalones where you have like a different romance story in each one and maybe also a different mystery. I think I would have preferred that. But now I do want to read Paladin's Strength because I really want to know who the murderer is, who is behind this. There's some crazy magic involved with these murders, so I really want to know who's behind this. So yeah, that's Paladin's Grace. Not bad. Did enjoy it, but a little bit disappointed because I liked A House with Good Bones a lot more than I did this one. I own Nettle and Bone, and I hope that I like that one more than I did Paladin's Grace. Now, I have read 788 pages so far for my Worldbuilder career, and my next book will be a shorter book, and that's Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. This is a paranormal romance, so it doesn't really qualify for the fantasy, the non-urban fantasy prompt, I would say. But I'm counting it because it does have a map of the town it is set in. So this is like a cozy paranormal romance. I think it involves witches and ghosts, and obviously it's very autumnal. And maybe that's a little bit weird to read in spring, but I'm going to Rare Burling, like I said in my previous clip when I showed some of the books I bought. And this is one of these two authors, like K.L. Morrison, is coming to Rare, and I want to read one of her books before I go to this event. So I will have to read this in spring, even though I would prefer to read this in autumn. But I'm excited about this one because it's actually the only sapphic book on my TBR for Rare. There were a lot of authors who write male romances, but this was the only sapphic romance I could find. Maybe I missed some, but that's the reason why I picked it. Obviously also because it looked very cute and I love autumn. It's my favorite season. So I hope that this one will be a success and that I can get it signed in Berlin. I'm in my pajamas again because it's bedtime. This is probably going to be a bit of a rambly update because I just found out that K.L. Morrison is not coming to Rare Berlin anymore. That was the reason I was reading this book in spring instead of waiting until it was fall time. And on top of that, today also Julie Johnson and H.M. Wolf cancelled. And those are two authors that were still on my physical TBR, and I was actually planning on reading The Windweaver after this one if I still had enough time to read it for Orilium. So I will probably read something else, probably We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark, I think, because that's also my Rare TBR and that's also a fantasy book. I'm a bit upset about it because a lot of authors that I've already read have cancelled. I will be very sad if Brookfast or Pencol cancel because those are my favorites so far that I've read from the authors that are still attending. But okay, let's do a quick update for our Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. I will still keep reading this book because I've already read the first 100 pages and it's a very short one and I am enjoying it. So sad that I won't be seeing the author, but Rare gave me the opportunity to discover her. So this one is obviously very autumnal. It's set in this town called Maple Hollow, and Maple Hollow is like Halloween and fall themed throughout the entire year. Also, this town is actually quite magical because there are haunted woods and a lot of paranormal creatures are attracted to these woods. So there are like witches, werewolves, vampires, monsters, all kinds of things living there. The tourists obviously don't know about this, only the locals know this. And our first main character is Jordan. Jordan is a witch, and 1 year ago she broke up with her girlfriend, and a few days later this girl died in a car accident. And on the anniversary of their breakup, she's kind of drunk and she summons the ghost of her ex-girlfriend, trying to like get closure, but then the ghost won't leave until she's found a new love. It's a very interesting concept and I like it so far because it's just like this big metaphor of you have to move on from your ex. We have Harlow. And Harlow is new to this town. She's moving in with her sister who owns this little cafe. So she finds out for the first time that paranormal creatures are real, that witches are real. And so far these two have been on one date together already. And cute so far. But what's also interesting is that there's a little bit of a mystery going on as well. Because like I said, Jordan's ex died in a car accident, but it might not be an accident. We're not sure yet, so they're investigating her death as well, and that's a really fun combination. So great vibes so far, really enjoying it. Don't know how many stars it will be yet, and I will talk to you again once I've read a little bit more or once I've finished it. We'll see, because it is a very short read. Finished Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. I'm giving this one also 3.5 stars like Paladin's Grace, but like a little bit of a higher 3.5 stars, I would say. My enjoyment of the book kind of dipped in the second half. I was still enjoying most of it, and this is like a very cute cozy, quick read. And I would recommend it, especially for the fall season, not so much for the spring season. But I do wish that there had been like a little bit more substance to the story in general. Romance moved very quickly and it didn't bother me, but I did feel like the characters and the story in itself were a little bit superficial, but like not so superficial that I couldn't enjoy it. And also like the world building could have been a little bit more. There were a few things that didn't make a lot of sense to me. I had to suspend my disbelief a little bit too much, or like that kind of took me out of the story. The last thing that I want to say that bothered me a little bit in the second half, which was why in the second half my enjoyment went down a little bit, is that Harlow's sister, I just didn't really like her. She has a personality that's a bit like me, so maybe that's why. She's a little bit of a control freak, and she doesn't like change, and that's all understandable, but the way she reacts to Harlow making mistakes that I honestly thought were very normal to make when you're moving to a town that's paranormal and you didn't know paranormal creatures existed, and you're learning a new job because she works in Sister's cafe. I thought those were really normal mistakes, and yes, they had consequences, and I could understand that like it upset Willow, but she was kind of rude to Harlow. That wasn't really addressed in the story. I was expecting like at the end that Willow would see that the way she reacted was a bit harsh and a bit too much, but that wasn't the case. So I don't really like Willow that much, especially because Harlow also has ADHD that's mentioned in the book. And I just thought that Willow made Harlow feel like she wasn't good enough and she couldn't do anything, that she wasn't competent, and I just really didn't like that part of the book. And I know that the third book is about Willow. I don't know if I want to read that one. I do want to read the second book, which is about Chris, who is Burton's best friend, who is a witch, and then the love interest is a demon, who we also got to see a little bit in this book. I do want to read that one. This third book is about Willow, who I don't like, but I do like her love interest because he's a werewolf and I'm obsessed with werewolves. So I kind of want to see how I feel about Willow in the second book, because maybe she will have more character growth in her own book. I don't know. That's something for future Sophie to decide. But yeah, would recommend, but like don't expect too much from this. It's a good, quick palate cleanser. It's fun to read, but a little bit superficial, I would say. I've read 1055 pages now for my Worldbuilder career, so we're not there yet. The next book I want to read is also for Rare. I hope this author doesn't cancel. Maybe I need to check that. If I find out that she has cancelled after this clip, I will update you again and I will pick a different book because I'm not doing this again. I will read We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark. It doesn't have a map, but it's high fantasy slash romantasy. It's a romantasy book, but it's set in a completely made up world from what I could gather from the synopsis. So I think this will fit for non-urban fantasy. I don't know a lot about it because I think the synopsis is a little bit vague. It's about someone who wants to save her brother's life and she takes a vow, and then she has to kill the emperor, and to do that she must enter into this kind of deadly competition or arena to get close to the emperor. And there's a love triangle, and she must unravel a conspiracy, it also says. It has vampires. That's about it. Don't know a lot more. I will give you a bit more once I've read a little bit, so I can explain it better, because that's sometimes the case with fantasy books. I think the synopsis sometimes are hard to explain when you haven't read the book. But I will update you again, and I will let you know if she has cancelled which other book I'm reading. I do think that this will probably be my last book of the vlog, because I only have 1 week left. This is over 400 pages, We Who Will Die, and that won't give me enough pages to finish my higher calling. That's also because I also read To Cage a Wild Bird, which I didn't count for this. I think otherwise I would have made it, but it really doesn't fit the prompts. And I also started it before the readathon started. So yeah, I will probably need another year for the higher calling, but that's fine because I thought that would probably be the case. I don't know how I forgot it, because the cover makes it pretty clear, but this book is Roman-inspired. I do have to say that the combination of Roman-inspired fantasy and vampires, I've never read that before. Now that I'm reading it, I remember that people said in their reviews that it's like Gladiator meets Vampire Diaries. So I really don't know how I forgot about the Roman thing. But I do like Roman-inspired fantasy. That's something that I'm always interested in. I've heard that the love triangle that's in here does have a lot of Vampire Diaries vibes, but I have a confession to make. I've actually never watched the Vampire Diaries, so I won't be able to tell you if that's accurate or not. I only read the first 55 pages, so I'm not very far into it, but I'm just here to give you like a quick summary of the setup of the story and my initial thoughts, and then I will go back to reading more of this. So we're following Arvel, and Arvel lives in this city in like the poor district. It's called the Thorn District, and one of her two brothers is very ill. He has like this lung disease because of like a mine accident that happened when he was younger. She can't find the medicine that she needs for him. And then it turns out that a vampire has been buying all these tonics because he wants her to compete in the Sundering, which is like this trial competition thing that's very deadly for people to get selected for the Emperor's Guard. And Arvel has never been interested in competing in this. She has been through the sands because that's something that everyone has to go through, I think, at a certain age. And she has won that, and most of the time the winners of the sands enter the Sundering, but she really doesn't want to because something happened to her best friend in the sands. The vampire like kind of gives her no other choice, because it's like, you compete in the Sundering and get selected into the Emperor's Guard and then kill the Emperor. I will heal your brother. Not only will I give him the tonics that he needs, but I will get him the healing he needs. And eventually she agrees to this because she has no other choice. And now she's at the arena where the Sundering will take place. The trials haven't started yet, but we have met the two love interests so far. I mean, I know that they will be the love interests because of what's on the back. This vampire she makes a deal with is not one of the love interests, but there are two vampires in the Sundering that are the love interests. So we have like the Primus, who is like the leader of the Emperor's Guard, the Imperius, the Emperor's Guard. And we haven't really seen him yet because he's always fully in full armor and even with a helmet, so even his face and eyes are covered, which, you know, that's a kind of trope I do like. We have Rorik, who I just met in the last chapter that I read, and he's the eldest son of the Emperor. The magic is intriguing, but I'm still like getting into the world and trying to understand everything. So the first few chapters, sometimes I was like a little bit confused and like, whoa, how does everything work? But I do think that's normal in high fantasy. We have like vampires, obviously, and I've learned a little bit about all the abilities that the vampires have. And then you have sigil marked, and that are people who are born with the sigil on their forehead. We have bronze sigils, silver sigils, and gold sigils. And they get like powers when they get older. And our main character does have a gold sigil, so she should be powerful, but her power never came through. Don't understand a lot yet about these sigils, but it is intriguing. We also have like ethers and crystals and stones that give like more like technology kind of magic. So we have this transportation method and things like that. So that's interesting. don't know how I feel about it. I'm enjoying my time. Sometimes I'm a little bit confused, and I think that kind of sums up where I'm at now. Because the love interests, we've met them, but we haven't got like a lot of interaction with them, so I don't know yet how I feel about them. I do have to say Rorik seems like very morally grey, maybe even morally black, I don't know, because that last chapter, that was kind of bloody. That was kind of intense. I will leave it at that. It's the 1st of May and I'm still reading We Will Die, so I'm going to have to use an extension scroll for this. Honestly, that's fine because I have a lot of guild reputation points. I'm also aware that this vlog is getting really long, but anyway. I'm at the 60% mark now. I've read up until page 260, and I already know that this is going to be a hard book to review. I have very mixed feelings on it, and it's kind of hard to put into words, and I'm also not sure what the rating will be, probably like 3 stars or 3.5 stars, because it's like some parts I'm obsessed with. There have been scenes where I'm like, oh my god, I'm eating this shit up, I want more of this. But then other parts, not so much. And I think I'm starting to understand what the main issue is for me, and I think that this book is just trying to do too much and is giving me whiplash. Moments where I'm kind of out of the book is when I feel like I'm being thrown from scene to scene and I don't really understand like what we're doing in this book or what the point is, and I just feel like, oh, now we're doing this, now it's this, and that's a little bit much and confusing. And then the other thing I am having issues with is I have a lot of trouble remembering characters' names. At this point in the book, I should not have this problem anymore. There are a lot of side characters, that's one. And I think maybe too many. And then secondly, I think a lot of the side characters don't have enough personality, so it's really hard to remember who is who. And like, even I can't even remember sometimes who's a vampire, who's a sigil marked, and stuff like that. So those are the things I'm struggling with. I am kind of obsessed with one of the 2 love interests, but I'm also scared that he will not be endgame. I mean, he is the main love interest in this book, I would say, but I feel like this is a series that might switch love interests and go for the other one instead. And there also has been a reveal or like a twist in the love triangle that I don't really like. Maybe it will be okay in this one, I'm not sure. I've only read this in one other book or slash series. I'm not going to tell you which one because I would say that in this book it's a spoiler, and in that other series I've read it in, or I've seen it in, it's not a spoiler at all. It's in the blurb and it's very clear from the start of the book what you're getting yourself into with this love triangle. And with this one, it's used as a twist, and I'm not sure if I like that or not. There are also magical creatures in this, and there has been a scene with Griffin that's on the cover that I also really loved and even got me emotional. So yeah, it's really, really mixed. Still want to continue reading it, and I want to finish it and see how the first book ends, and then decide if I want to take this book to Berlin to get it signed or not, and if I want to continue this series or not. I finished We Will Die. This is a very hard book to rate and review because I would say some parts felt like 4.5 stars and sometimes it bordered on a 2-star read. So I'm settling on 3.5 stars, I think. And I do think I want to take this with me to Berlin to get it signed because I do really want to read the second book that comes out in January 2027, I think. So yeah. Mixed feelings, sometimes obsessed, sometimes not so much, that kind of state, but the ending gives me hope that the second book will be more focused in the plot, because my main issue was that the plot felt all over the place. at moments. So I have hope that that will be better in book 2, because the ending makes it clear which path the series is going to take, and I am interested in that. I do fear that book 2 will switch love interests, but we'll see how I feel about that when I read the second book. So yeah, that means that we're finally finished with this extremely long vlog, and I didn't succeed in reading my 1,800 pages, but I did read 1,478 pages, which means that next year I only have 322 pages left. So that will be a much shorter vlog with probably only one book in it. These were the 4 books that I read in this vlog. We started off very strong with a 5-star, and then I had some 3.5-star reads. Let me know in the comments if you participated in Magical Readathon, which higher calling or calling you tried to achieve, and did you achieve it? Did you succeed for your exams or not? And let me know what your favorite book was that you read during the readathon. If you made it this far into this video, because congratulations, and you have nothing to say, leave me an emoji in the comments, and you know, leave me like the blood droplet emoticon for Blood Over Brighthaven, or like a fire emoticon, just to let me know that you finished this goddamn video. And if you want to follow me on my next bookish adventure, make sure to subscribe and turn the bell notification on, and I will see you in whatever comes next.